In 2024, Marella Cruises ran both the fascinating Far East and Eastern Experience cruise itineraries. Both are very similar and use Singapore as a base port. They both include a busy packed week sailing up the western coast of Malaysia to Phuket, and a more sedentary week crossing the Gulf of Thailand towards Bangkok and onwards to South Vietnam and Ho Chi Minh City. But is this a great cruise experience? Well, we'll share our experiences with you in this video to help you make up your own mind. So here goes.
A tiring 13-hour flight from the UK couldn't quell our excitement for this holiday of a lifetime. Despite having no sleep on the plane, we were amazingly up for exploring Singapore on our arrival. Fatigue, however, got the better of us as we made a big mistake navigating our way to central Singapore on the city's MRT trains. Realising our mistake, our long train ride eventually deposited us at the incredibly beautiful Gardens by the Bay. Wow! We saw the famous Marina Bay Sands Hotel, the one with the surfboard on the top, and also those super trees that everyone raves about. But no light show tonight as Chinese New Year celebrations in the city took precedence. We walked through the beautiful gardens, taking in our immaculately engineered botanical surroundings. To think this area was wasteland 20 years ago, and today it's a lure for millions of tourists. We then realised we hadn't had a drink since we got off the plane. How are you feeling, guys?
It's been a long day, a long, nearly 13-hour flight.
Definitely.
We've had a lovely walk around the Gardens by the Bay. Amazing. We'll have to come back here over the few days we've got here, but now we need a beer.
Definitely. So we hiked around the harbour area and managed to find a bar.
And our beer, a nice pint of Kieran at the city bar. Cheers.
The great Singapore beer was going down far too easy. Getting peckish, Nettie. Shall we go back to the ship then?
Are you mad? We're right next to Chinatown.
Okay, let's go and find a cafe. Posh nosh. More posh nosh. This looks more like it. So Nettie, how good's the food?
The duck in plum sauce, absolutely amazing. Delicious.
Fatigue, beers and food. Only one thing missing, and that's souvenirs.
Fridge magnet time! Yay!
Success, and a hat too. With our batteries now completely flat, we headed back to the ship. Sleep needed, but not before a final cocktail in the warm moonlight. Night.
Night!
Day 2, and our plan was to explore Singapore's natural spaces, and MacRitchie Natural Park was our first port of call. This vast area of original Singapore jungle contains lakes and several boardwalk-style trails and paths for those who want to seek nature in this hot, humid, sweaty environment. And just a short walk away from the Bright Hill MRT station, we found ourselves walking into the rainforest on its marked walking trails.
Wow! This was some experience. We wanted to find the treetop walk. Gosh, it was hot and humid.
We were certainly demolishing our water bottles to stay hydrated. However, luckily we found a ranger station which provided a loo stop and a chance to refill. At least there's a water fountain here, although it's not the most alluring name for a water fountain, is it really? Vomica. Ugh. We really needed the water. However, the local macaques are acutely aware that you may have some snacks in your bag, and we found out that they would happily try and steal your bag or even fight you for it.
But those baby monkeys, they were so cute.
Cute. They'll definitely grow up to be bag-stealing, snack-grabbing terrorisers.
So we kept walking and climbed to the wobbly treetop walk.
Definitely worth it though. What a view.
Breathtaking. How long is this walk? Shall we ask this chap?
Lee was the 70-year-old local who walks this route daily. Fit as a fiddle, friendly, knowledgeable and a brilliant guide who led us out of the forest before we melted. Now that was a long walk. How was that?
That was some walk, wasn't it? 5.5 miles in the heat.
Oh, look at me, sweaty.
Really lovely, fantastic walk.
Really nice.
Up to the treetop walk, fantastic rainforest.
Yeah.
Animals, wildlife.
Yeah, met a really nice chap.
Yeah, Lee was fantastic,
Yeah,
met
he's
him
lovely.
halfway round,
Yeah.
acted as a local guide, pointing stuff out, it was really great. Okay, we're really sweaty now, it's lunchtime. Let's go and find somewhere with some air conditioning and hopefully a bite to eat.
Yeah.
See you soon, bye.
So we then headed to the botanical gardens. Thirsty work calls for high-tech orange juice. I could watch this machine all day.
So after this we explored Singapore's botanical gardens, which are full of amazing plants and lizards and terrapins and otters and deadly trees that give off cyanide gas if you damage them. These gardens are vast and are a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There's a whole day's worth of exploring here.
It's free too, and there's a waterfall you can walk behind. Good to cool off.
We paid extra to access the National Orchid Garden, but it was well worth it. These orchids were simply stunning. Time was passing and we had to be back at the ship for the pre-sale muster drill, so we begrudgingly headed back to the ship.
Having trekked over 9 miles, we stayed on board, took in a show and drank cocktails till the eyelids were closing.
Day 3 was a day at sea, as our port stop in Malacca had to be aborted by Marella. So grabbing the opportunity to recover a bit from our jet lag, we slobbed and lazed about, and we even managed to get sunburn lying in the shade.
A cookery demonstration and a trip to the coffee port broke up the day before we togged up for the first dress to impress night of the cruise. Having done the obligatory cruise selfies, we ate in the Glass House restaurant. Then, in the atrium, we watched a ballroom dancing demonstration, had a few more drinks and busted some cringe-worthy moves at the Solent Disco, my favourite.
Docking in Penang on day 4, we headed for our coach as we were on the TUI excursion to Orangutan Island. The coach trip was a long one, and our guide worked hard to keep us entertained with interesting facts about Penang and Malaysia. We grabbed the loo stop and a photo opportunity to snap one of the 2 incredibly long bridges in the area. Arriving at our holiday park was a bit of a surprise, but this was where we could catch the ferry to Orangutan Island.
Arriving on the island, we entered the caged walkway through the reserve and soon encountered some of the island's inhabitants. These were simply beautiful creatures, and they weren't fazed one bit by having visitors stroll through the cage snapping away with their phones. This was over too soon, however, and after only 45 minutes on the island and with souvenirs brought, we found ourselves back at the jetty for the ferry back to the mainland.
Really didn't want to leave this place, but we had to get back on the coach to experience a Malaysian traffic jam. And although we were late back to the ship, it had waited for us as we were on a TUI excursion. Then, in the evening, we enjoyed some live music and some smoky cocktails.
Day 5 saw us up early and tender ashore as we were taking the speedboat to the Phi Phi Islands. Patong Bay itself looked beautiful as we walked through the town to our bus pickup point.
We were boarding the speedboat on the other side of Phuket Island, and 45 minutes later we were aboard our speedboat and heading down the river out into the Andaman Sea. Racing across the sea with the wind in our faces was breathtaking, but fate was going to deal us a surprise as partway across the sea our speedboat broke down. Able to nudge us towards a nearby desert island, we awaited rescue. How are you feeling about this, Neddy?
Unfortunately, we've had a little bit of a problem with the engine on our boat, so we've just been stranded on a desert island. Ooh, look at this, look at this. Ooh. And we're waiting for another speedboat to come and pick us up and we can carry on to the Phi Phi Islands. Yay!
Rescue soon came in the form of another speedboat which arrived a little over an hour later, and we resumed our journey to the magical Phi Phi Islands.
These islands deserve their reputation as they are simply stunning, and it is easy to see why they have been used in movie sets.
We navigated our way around the islands and saw the beach that was used in the movie called The Beach, and we also went round to the lagoon area, which was an absolutely jaw-droppingly breathtaking sight.
This trip also allowed snorkelling on the coral reefs surrounding the islands. This was such fun and we didn't want to leave at all.
The excursion also included a tasty meal at the Phi Phi Islands Natural Resort. This setting was unbelievably beautiful too. How's the water, Nettie?
So warm, it's like a bath.
There was beach time for swimming and yet more snorkelling too. Paradise found.
Despite being delayed by the earlier boat breakdown, the excursion continued in full, and by the time we had returned to the ship, we were over 2 hours late past the time of the last tender back aboard. However, we were so pleased we had booked a TUI excursion, and the ship had, of course, waited patiently for us.
Safely back aboard, we chilled and reflected on what had been a truly memorable day for all the right reasons.
Arriving in Langkawi, you soon realise this is an especially beautiful place, but you also soon realise it's a very long walk from the cruise ship to pretty much anywhere, even if you are boarding a bus or a boat.
Our TUI excursion took us across the island to the Kilim Geoforest National Park, where we boarded yet another speedboat. This thrill ride whizzed through Langkawi mangroves, passing through limestone caves and watching majestic eagles swoop down to retrieve their prey from the waters. This was a truly spectacular sight. We explored a wide area and headed out to sea for a selfie in front of the Kilim Geoforest sign.
Our last stop on this excursion was the busy but somewhat mesmerising Bat Cave, where 3 species of bats hang above your heads on the roof of the cave. And if bats aren't your thing, the local population of macaque monkeys are almost certain to entertain you. We loved watching them play, but saw tourists learn the hard way why you keep food and drink well out of sight.
Heading back to the ship, our evening fun took in a show. 6 Strings it was called. There was a really fun game show also in the Squid and Anchor, and we finished up the night on deck for a silent disco.
This was another brilliant day on this cruise. Surely we can't keep this up.
Port Klang is the cruise port used to access Kuala Lumpur, and once ashore our excursion bus whisked us towards the city. When we say whisked, we mean drove very slowly and queued in traffic jams.
Arriving at the Batu Caves a couple of hours later soon lifted our spirits as we first glimpsed the 45-metre high statue of Lord Murugan, which commands the entrance of the caves. What a sight this is, simply stunning.
So then we climbed the very colourful but very steep 272 steps, avoiding banana skins dropped by the macaques and water hoses used to wash the steps clear of monkey dung. But this was a climb worth making, as once inside the 400 million year old caves we were blown away by the beauty of the sacred Hindu temples within. This was a place to experience its atmosphere and be in awe of those making the pilgrimage to this holy site.
It's truly a wonderful place, but before long we had to be back on our bus. But a member of our party was attacked on the steps by a macaque monkey and was in need of first aid for a wound that was ultimately in need of stitches.
So we waited on the bus for reassurance that she'd be okay, and thankfully she was. So our tour resumed, and our next stop saw us park up outside the Istana Negara Palace, used by the current King of Malaysia. Photo time, photos of us in front of the palace. The palace. Guards looking grumpy. That's about it, I think. Anyway, we soon continued into the city centre for our next photo opportunity, which was the spectacular Petronas Twin Towers. Once the world's tallest building, well now, it isn't. But it's still an iconic site and a marvel of engineering. Photos done, we sadly learned we were not able to go up to the Sky Bridge and that we'd booked the wrong tour if we wanted to do that. Always read the tour description, of course. But still, our Petronas selfies were cool enough.
Lunch was included on this tour and we were pretty famished. Our guide Chris promised a delicious spread of food at a lavish hotel once frequented by Michael Jackson. Remembering the headlines about the Prince of Pop's dietary habits, we were not sure what sort of food awaited us. But we needn't have worried, as this traditional Malaysian spread of foods was simply delicious.
Afterwards, our bus whisked us across the city to Independence Square, where an end to the British rule in Malaya was marked and the Malaysian flag raised for the first time in August 1957. This very English-looking part of the city with its cricket green, pavilion and Anglican church is quite symbolic, and it was a fascinating spot to learn from our guide about the impacts of British rule in Malaya.
We took a walk across the city to the central market, where we had a short time to browse and shop before our coach took us back to the ship. It felt a bit like supermarket sweep.
Back aboard, Marella had laid on a deck barbecue, and the food and live music was a great way to while away the hours. Later in the evening, Nettie took in the Ballroom Blitz show,
while Si sat on the deck soaking up the sunset, drinking beer, reading and deafening himself with heavy metal.
Our second attempt at Singapore promised to be a frenetic day as we were determined to pack in as much in as our energy levels allowed. Our first port of call was the Merlion, Singapore's national symbol. The Merlion stems from the legend that Singapore Island was rediscovered in the 11th century by a wayfaring prince who saw a beast on the shore which he later learned was a lion. Enamoured by this beast, he named the settlement he founded Singapura, a Sanskrit word for Lion City. These days, the statue is a 24-hour lure for those seeking that perfect Instagram photo, and we joined the throng of snappers who were happy to push, shove and jostle for that perfect photo position.
Leaving the Merlion, we crossed the photogenic Anderson Bridge and explored the riverbank area with its plentiful sculptures. More fun with the orange juice machines. These are so good. Having walked past too many cake shops, we finally gave in. So how's that cheese bun, Si?
Time to put fresh orange juice, and I bought myself a cheese bun. Looks as though it's got sugar on it. Wonder what it's going to be like. Here we go. Oh, sweet and cheesy.
Is it nice?
Yeah, fine. Just not what I thought. Wow. Okay, go.
So are we heading off to St John Island then?
Well, we messed that up. We were supposed to be at the St John's Island ferry, but we've messed up our timings. It's at 11 o'clock ferry is the last one till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That seems like a long time to wait for a ferry. So I think we'll give that a miss. We'll come up with a plan B.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Okay, there's loads more to do and see. So we returned to the Gardens by the Bay to visit the cloud forest.
The cloud forest is effectively an indoor posh greenhouse, and it's filled with plants from rainforests across the world. Spread across several zones to explore with interactive exhibits, this was an excellent way to spend an hour and a half, and it features one of the world's tallest indoor waterfalls too. This place was amazing, educational, easy on the eye, aromatic and air conditioned.
Lunchtime, and time to try one of Singapore's hawker centres for some cheap, high-quality street food. So it was back to the downtown area, and the Amoy Food Centre was the first we stumbled across. How was the food, Si?
That's incredible. Yeah, it's so tasty.
What did you have?
I have the roasted chicken rice with the dark soy sauce covering it.
And how much was it?
$4.
Wow.
£3.
I've gone for the roast duck with soy sauce and some chilli sauce, so we'll see what that's like. Bye! After filling our bellies with tasty food, we walked into Chinatown and Si wanted to try some coffee. And the Nanyang Old Singapore Coffee House proved a delight, but that evaporated milk certainly makes this a sweet treat.
Time for some shopping next in Chinatown street markets. Fridge magnets, t-shirts, hats of course, and smelly fruit. We noted that it's illegal in Singapore to take a durian fruit on the MRT because of the bad smell, so we gave them a wide berth. Then it was beer time, much needed. In fact, needed so much we found a second bar and had another.
Then we headed to Clarke Quay so we could take a river cruise on the bumboats. This was recommended to us and we soon found out why. This was an educational trip down the river to Marina Bay, and we learned on board about Singapore's history and how it became a global centre for trade and commerce.
The afternoon rains cooled us down as we walked back into the downtown area past the Buddha Tooth Relic Temple and towards, of course, the Maxwell Hawker Centre for some more tasty food. This afternoon had sped past, where had the time gone, and it was tea time already. So more tasty and cheap chicken and rice meals for tea. We just love the hawker centres and we soaked up the atmosphere in this essential part of Singapore culture.
Darkness descended quickly and we dashed towards the Gardens by the Bay area again to catch the Super Trees light show. We had heard how wonderful this was and it certainly didn't disappoint. Exhausted, we returned to the ship and grabbed a cocktail or two and turned in.
Day 9, we were loving Singapore and we were desperate to cram in more sights and experiences. Having to be back aboard the ship for the lunchtime sail away though, we couldn't stray too far away from the ship. A walk through the forest and up Mount Faber can be accessed immediately outside the cruise terminal, so we did that and regretted the steep climb soon afterwards. At the top though, we boarded the gondola and took a ride over the ship towards Sentosa Island. We noted there are lots of tourist attractions on this island, but also some beautiful beaches too. We decided to enjoy some beach time on the beautiful Siloso beach, paddling, exploring, and a final Singapore pier too.
Back on board and we were sailing away from Singapore just in time for rain. So we found a sheltered area on the promenade deck to watch the sail away into the Gulf of Thailand and grab 40 winks. In the evening, we enjoyed dining and live music before putting on a disastrous performance at the pub quiz. The silent disco also beckoned us again and was a fun way to finish our day.
Day 10 was a sea day, and so far this amazing holiday experience hadn't allowed too much time for chilling and relaxing. So on this sea day we did exactly that. We found some sun loungers in a sheltered area, read our books and slept.
While Si was catching flies, I snuck off and went to the Meet the Showcast event, drank cocktails and also watched some dancing classes. In the afternoon we enjoyed time on the mini golf and then we togged up for the second Dress to Impress night of the cruise. And our evening consisted of food, drink and another fantastic show. And for the first time of the cruise it felt like our batteries had recharged just a little.
Day 11 was for Bangkok and the day started with a change of plan as we'd had an enforced change of cruise port, and it was an early up and away as we boarded our bus towards Bangkok. This was a long bus ride however in the busy city traffic. Arriving in Bangkok we exited the bus right outside the Grand Palace and quickly grasped the format of our TUI book tour. we were to follow our guide as she walked across the city holding a bright orange umbrella. But we were soon able to experience the city vibe as we walked to the riverside area and boarded our boat for a tour of the city's canals.
This 50-minute boat trip took us past the boathouse for the royal barges and past several temples. We also saw fish feeding in the canals, as well as locals living and making their living off the canals. The boat trip ended by dropping us at the incredible Wateroo Temple, and we were given time to explore this wondrous and sacred place. It's absolutely beautiful and clearly a very special place for the Buddhist community. Wanted longer here, but were soon following the orange umbrella again, this time to our bus, which spirited us across the city to a station for the city SkyTrain.
Taking the SkyTrain across the city, we disembarked at the vast MBK shopping centre and were given time to shop and eat tasty Thai food. The time here passed really quickly, and before long it was time to board the bus again and head back to the ship. This had been a short but very enjoyable taster of what Bangkok had to offer, and in the evening we sampled good wines and ate in the Surf and Turf speciality dining restaurant, and this paled in comparison to the incredibly tasty food we'd enjoyed in the Bangkok food hall. It had been a great day, however, and we were totally buzzing about Bangkok.
Day 12 was another lazy and sleepy sea day. Sai was up at the crack of dawn to grab an indoor sun lounger in the glasshouse pool area, and these really comfortable sunbeds only added to the laziness of our day. Anyway, this day consisted mainly of sleeping, reading and swimming in the warm indoor pool. Couldn't sadly get a place at the free watercolour classes, but did enjoy an afternoon tea. Sai slept for his country. How does he do it? Our evening started with a meal before taking in the show, then to the Squid and Anchor for the quiz before more dancing at the silent disco. It's day 12 and we were starting to relax and chill.
Sunrise on day 13, and we were soon on our bus speeding towards Ho Chi Minh City. We had opted to do the Saigon on your own excursion, and we listened intently to the safety advice being dished out by our guide, who was known as Bang Bang. This was a very, very long bus ride through the crazy traffic and into the city, and our excited mood was quickly soured when we witnessed a truly horrific motorcycle accident. We arrived in downtown Saigon somewhat in shock, and decided that we'd try and do more uplifting things in our day here.
A nice walk by the river was our first idea, but we soon realised that crossing busy roads is a somewhat terrifying experience. Remembering our guide's advice, we stepped out into the traffic with our hands raised and prayed. And whilst the traffic didn't stop, it did avoid us. And this experience was repeated at pretty much every road we encountered.
We then walked from the river back into town past the impressive statue of the medieval Vietnamese war hero Tran Hung Dao, who defeated the invading Mongol hordes and is considered a brilliant military tactician. We then arrived in the central boulevard and walked the length of this traffic-free zone and up to the city hall and the statue of the more recent war hero Ho Chi Minh, whom the city is named after. Then across to the iconic post office building, which dates from the French occupation and was constructed in 1886. This is still a working post office, but you can of course buy souvenirs here also. Then we're walking past the Notre Dame Cathedral, which is sadly a construction site, and then we learn the hard way about trusting coconut sellers. With our Vietnamese dong now depleted, we headed to the Takashi Maya shopping centre, where we enjoyed delicious Vietnamese food within the food court. Afterwards, we explored the street markets with its fantastic array of stalls and vendors, and then we headed to the undercover Ben Tan market. This market was some place, and we had to put our bartering skills to the test to make the most out of the small amounts of Vietnamese dong that we had left. We were then ready to return to the ship after this, and we were soon back aboard the coach heading back to the port.
Back on board, it was another deck barbecue party, which was really enjoyable. We washed this down with cocktails, live music, and we had another disastrous quiz performance. Fair to say that this was an eye-opening day in Ho Chi Minh City.
Day 14 was our final day on board Discovery 2, and it had been an incredible 2 weeks. We'd been to some incredible places, seen some amazing sights and had some wonderful experiences. This second more sedentary week had been a much needed tonic after a somewhat frenetic first week. Some more sleeping but packing to go home too. A fun murder mystery event in the afternoon though began to ramp up the final day's fun. Another great meal, beers and cocktails, a fantastic show and a brilliant farewell party in the atrium, all built to a tumultuous crescendo. What a cruise this had been, and the following morning we were back at Singapore Airport, grabbing the opportunity to see the incredible Jewel waterfall and a final Singapore meal too before flying back to the UK.
This really had been a trip of a lifetime. Brilliant destinations and experiences on board a lovely ship with the kindest and most caring crew who brightened up every day. Would we recommend a Marella Far East cruise? Well, absolutely.
And I'd echo that. This was incredible value and we had one of the most fun cruise experiences we've ever had. Thank you, Marella. Happy memories made.
If you like what we do and you want to see more of our ventures, please like and subscribe. Cheers!